Hey everyone, thanks for your support in 2024. We have a lot of cool stuff coming in 2025, and here are some of the things you can look forward to as we move into next year. In the lead up to The Mandalorian and Grogu in 2026, we'll be starting a full series rewatch of both The Mandalorian and The Book of Boba Fett on exploring hyperspace lanes beginning in October. You can also expect a rewatch of Andor, and we will have reviews of every episode of Andor and the rest of the Skeleton Crew as those come out. Josie will be returning as we continue to rank every Star Wars thing released ever. Reviews of every episode of every Marvel Disney Plus show, including Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, The Eyes of Wakanda, Wonder Man, Ironheart, Daredevil Born Again, and Marvel Zombies, the day after each episode releases, will be available on Beware of Spoilers. We'll be having special event podcasts on 30-minute reviews for the Academy Awards, our 2024 year in review in early January, ranking all of Phase 5 of the MCU after Fantastic Four First Steps comes out, and our 10th anniversary special. Once we complete our rankings of all the Pokemon games on the backlog files, we'll be moving on to Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy. Over on the YouTube channel, you can join in for playthroughs of Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga, Pokemon White, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Blue Rescue Team, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, Kingdom Hearts Recoded, Mario Golf Toadstool Tour, Sonic Adventure 2, LEGO Racers 2, LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga, and SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom. Want to keep on top of all the new things we have coming? Subscribe at mwpnews.com, subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/@mwpnews, or subscribe to Beware of Spoilers, 30-minute reviews, exploring hyperspace lanes, and the backlog files on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Again, thank you for your support. Good morning and welcome to, afternoon by the time it goes up, 30-minute reviews. I am Adam. Happy New Year. And we're here today to talk about the first two episodes of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier as we get ready for Captain America Brave New World, which, after seeing the trailer they were running in theaters, I think this is Unfortunately, I think this is a waste of time to an extent, because the trailer that they put out, and I'll just address this real quick, that I saw before some movie recently, it kind of is meant to sum up Sam's story. And I kind of, said this when the show was on initially. The idea that this show is kind of entirely designed to be skippable. Like, yeah, Isaiah Bradley is in the show, and Isaiah Bradley is introduced in the show as this, as the Captain America of the Korean War. Like, yeah, that's there. But at the end of the day, I don't think that this show is designed to be an interquel that can be skipped. And without you missing a beat going to the next theatrical offering, which is weird considering following the success of this show, that was when we got the announcement that Captain America 4 was even happening, and that was, 3 years ago at this point? And the strikes happened, and here we are, and now in 2024. Yeah, because 2021 was when the show came out. But all of that said, looking at this show for what it is now, and what it, and all of that, how that works. This show is probably from the first two episodes, is probably the strongest start. And I think part of the problem is there was an article from IGN recently talking about Skeleton Crew, and I think that this kind of rings true for all of the Disney shows, is that they treat these like movies. These shows. The gist of the article is the shows are worse off because they don't have a pilot. And I think to an extent there is a certain amount of that is an accurate statement. Like, the idea behind it is when you had to pitch a TV show, you had to endear the audience to the characters immediately. And that was something that needed to be done regardless of how you were doing it. If you were doing prestige TV, streaming TV, whatever, you had to do that. But in the age of the limited series, in the age of the long-running narrative, in the age of, all of these things that are, now the norm when it comes to narrative long-term storytelling and cinematic television, prestige TV. You don't need to do that anymore because the TV show has picked up the series. You got to sell the entire show at once. Once the show has picked up the series, you're set, and you have your show. And you don't need to sell the audience anymore because you've already sold the audience by getting them to come in for one episode. And especially when you're dealing with a brand like Marvel or Star Wars, you don't have to really sell them on anything. The example that they used was for Skeleton Crew. Skeleton Crew very much is a victim of this because it's like we don't know any of these characters, and we're just kind of meandering through the story. And it's like for a movie this would work. For a TV show, not so much. Now, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier is a little different because they don't really need to teach you who anyone is. At this point, we know who Falcon is, we know who Bucky is, we know all of these people in this narrative, like Zemo. We haven't gotten to Zemo yet. We've gotten the introduction of we gotta go talk to Zemo. Sharon. We know who Sharon is, and then it's like we know who. Like John Walker is really the only newcomer, and as are the Flag Smashers. But that's to be expected from what this show is. Like this show is meant to be, it's kind of Captain America, 3.5. And what it is it's like at the end of Endgame, Steve gives the shield to Sam and says, "I want you to take over the mantle of Captain America." Old man Steve, who looks a lot like Joe Biden and talks like Joe Biden. It's a very weird thing. That was the choice they went with there. He's like half a sentence away from talking about corn pop at one point. But either way, it's like the whole thing is, he gives the shield to Sam. Sam doesn't know what to do with it, and by the end of the show, Sam has accepted his role as Captain America and will go on. If you go into the next movie without having seen this show, you can just assume that Sam accepted his role as Captain America when he has that conversation with Steve. Or you can watch the show, so there's a roundabout way to get there of him accepting who it is, with his identity as a black man and all of that. And that's arguably, it's better, not arguably, it is better storytelling. It's reckoning with a problem. And I think that's the thing, is that it's like, I forgot that Isaiah fought the Winter Soldier during Korea. And we'll get to my favorite episode. I would say of the things they've done in Marvel Studios on TV, it's one of my favorite episodes. Is the finale. It's like the second to last episode of the show, episode 7. But also it's like, it's up there with like the Loki season 1 finale, which is just phenomenal, and then the Agatha episode with what's it called? The Agatha episode where she is where it's asynchronous or not in correct time, because it's from Lila's perspective and Lila sees things out of order. Like that episode's really good too. But this is probably my favorite episode of anything they've done is coming up. But the point I'm trying to make with all of this is this show, I think, kicks off in a way that's like designed to kind of get you in. I think it's like, it's the Winter Soldier, we're throwing Sam into the thick of it. He is the Falcon. He has not taken on the mantle of Captain America. He's turned in the shield because he's like, I don't think this is what this should be. And I think what's interesting too is that, again, this is another show. It kind of reminds me of the Batman in a way. The Flag Smashers as a villain are an interesting choice. And what ends up happening that ultimately harms the show in a way that we really have to reckon with is the pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic influenced this show because it was still in production, and it wasn't just delays as a result of that, but it was plot lines that were adjusted as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. There was originally a plot line involving a virus or something that was going to wipe out a lot of humanity. And then, sure enough, COVID happened. So, like, we really can't do this in a show. That would be in poor taste. The Flag Smashers as a villain are interesting. And then to take a villain called the Flag Smashers, like, they're here because they want a global society. They're functionally just globalists. They don't want borders. They don't want anything like that. They're just here they want a society where anyone can go wherever they want and just, deal with it the way it was during the blip. And again, it'd be really cool to see what happened during the blip in some substantive way, but we haven't seen that yet. We've seen characters come back from the blip. We've seen the moment the blip, the reverse blip happens, but we haven't seen what happened in the 5 years. And I feel like that's something that we really should grapple with. But I think at this point, Marvel's like, you know what? Let's just not do that. Do like a show like Tales from the Blip. Like, there was that show on Prime, The Romanovs. Do something like that, but like a bunch of random people during the blip. You could do it for like $20 million. Like, just, I'd watch it. But the point is, it's like, you have all these characters who are, what's the word I'm looking for here? Like, what the fuck? We have all these characters who are like, displaced during the blip, and then they, in that 5 years, they've kind of gotten their life a certain way. And then everyone comes back and they're like, well, fuck, now I gotta be displaced again. And one of the things she says is the thing that's the most telling, is that things got better during the blip because the blip took out a lot of people who were in power, who were actively making things worse. Then when they came back, they went back to those positions of power. So this idea that, like, okay, the blip happens and then, we gotta put everything kind of back to exactly the way it is. It's an interesting situation to put these villains in. Because it's like, they're not, they're not without, what's the word I'm looking for here? They're not without, you understand where they're coming from. And I think the thing is, too, it's like, the idea that, like, America doubles down to fight them by bringing in a new Captain America is a really interesting way to approach that villain. Because you have a villain who is designed to be the antithesis of nationalism. And the idea with this is, okay, so they are everything against that. And we're going to take a guy who's literally draped in the flag. And he's going to be, he's going to be that. And then it's like, he's a 3-time Medal of Honor winner. He was deployed when Captain America came back. So he'd be like early 30s, mid 30s when the show starts. Presumably he served in Afghanistan and Iraq. So he got these Medals of Honor over there. Like, it's the way they define what he is interesting. And I think that the other thing that the show doesn't really grapple with is that the person who wants to sign up for a war, it depends on when they want to sign up for the war, what the war they want to sign up for is, and they don't really grapple with that enough in this show that I remember. From the first show, they definitely don't, because it's this, this thing. And the other thing that we really didn't address is, I like the way they play with Bucky here, and I like the way they play with Sam here, and I like the way they play with each other. Like, the therapy scene with the two of them just belligerent as fuck trying to, like, go through this therapy session is hilarious. Like, the two of them just arguing and all of that, and then Sam having the breakthrough moment where he goes, I didn't want to, if you gave up the shield, it means that Steve was wrong about you, and if Steve was wrong about you, then he was wrong about me. And it's like, that moment rings completely through. And that's just Sebastian Stan being able to sell that. I think that they do a great job of that. I do really enjoy this show. I feel like, I don't know why this show, let me rephrase that. I know why this show has a bad reputation, and it's because people are giant children. It's like, at one point in the show, it's like, we're going to get to it. And I think it's a good moment. The moment where Bucky is like, me and Steve did not think about the implications of a black man taking on the mantle of Captain America, and I'm sorry for that. It's a great moment of realization that, like, oh shit, we didn't think about this. Like, we didn't think this whole thing through. We were just like, yeah, give it to Steve. Sam, it's fine. And one of the things that I never really clicked, and it's a great little, like, you know, moment, is the idea that the kids are calling him Uncle Sam. Which is just, it's such a cute little thing. It's like, this is, I love this show, and I think this show deserves a second look from anyone who's not a complete chud. Aside from what you've heard from people who are like, well, it's, you know, it's anti-white, it's anti-whatever, it's like, no, it's just, you gotta watch it to understand what it is. And it's this idea of, like, you know, dealing with the semantics of the blip is interesting, but again, we don't really get that too much more beyond this show. I think we get, like, you know, WandaVision was before this, where we get to deal with, we have the repercussions of the blip there, as was, you know, Far From Home. That was another thing that was like, you know, we're dealing with the aftermath of the blip, but even so, it's very light. It's not a deep look at the blip or anything like that. And then beyond that, it's just, you know, like, I think we see Yelena come back in Hawkeye. Like, the return of Yelena in Hawkeye, I think, is the last time we actually deal with the blip itself. Or was it in, what's it called? Was it in Echo? I don't remember. It might have been in Echo. But regardless, I do really enjoy this show. I think the way that they handle this show is really, is interesting. Because, like, I think the other thing is, too, it's like the effects on this hold up a lot better than a lot of the other shows. Like, a lot of the effects in Moon Knight, even at the time, did not look great. A lot of the effects in WandaVision, I mean, granted, they got around that by using a lot of practical effects, and the practical effects do hold up, because practical effects will tend to hold up better than, what's what I'm looking for here? You know, digital effects. But, like, the idea that, you know, this show kind of, you know, like, that opening, like, feels like it was shot with a stunt team and embellished with CGI. And that is the best way to do it. It's the riskiest, don't get me wrong, because you risk injury, but at this point, it's kind of a science, where it's like, how do stuntmen do their thing without, you know, killing themselves? It's, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, they do a great job with it here. What else have we got that I like? And that's the thing, too, is that it's like, that's the hook in for this show. The hook in for this show is that opening stunt scene where, where, you know, you have all those people, like, all that huge aerial fight with Sam and Bartrock and all of them. Like, that's the hook of this show. Asshole. Sorry, some guy with 7 Trump flags on his car. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, this is a, you know, that's the hook in for the show. It's like, look at what we're doing. And I think the thing is, too, it's like, to an extent, I think they keep a good job of keeping that reasonably grounded, if I remember correctly. Like, maybe the finale is the next time we get a huge, expensive action set piece. But beyond that, it's like that, that first episode is just kind of exactly where it, you know, where it kind of lands perfectly. But yeah, we'll continue this every Thursday. Next week we'll be doing episode 3, episode 4, on and on and on. Then at the end we'll be doing the Eternals, because the Eternals will factor very heavily into this show. And then we will be moving on to Captain America, Brave New World on Valentine's Day. And we're only a few weeks away from that, so cool. And the thing is, too, it's like, as I'm watching this, I'm like, oh, we're going through John Walker's backstory here. I'm like, oh, like, the issue with both of those movies, that and Thunderbolts, happening at reasonably the same time, is you end up in a situation where the characters are, you know, kind of the same. Like, it's one of those things where it's like the characters are, like, we're dealing with a lot of crossover. So, like, for Thunderbolts, we're going to be doing, what's his name? We're gonna be doing Black Widow, so we can get Red Guardian and Yelena. And then also, I think we might do Ant-Man and the Wasp, which we can get a refresher on Ghost. But I think that's basically it. And Taskmaster. But I think that, and then John Walker we just did here. Who else is in that? I feel like there's someone else I'm missing. I mean, we could do Black Panther Wakanda Forever, but just so we get more Val, we'll do that too. Why not? No, we're saving Wakanda Forever for Ironheart later in the year. Yeah. But we'll wrap up there for today. And until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.